The Los Angeles Rams dominated their wild card matchup over Sam Darnold and the Minnesota Vikings, and now they get to travel to Philadelphia to take on Saquon Barkley and the Eagles in the divisional round. My name is Tyler here with my brother Ryan, and we're going to break down this 2025 divisional round matchup between the Los Angeles Rams and Philadelphia Eagles. But before we get into that, if you like the content that Ryan and I put out and you want to help the Tracy Take channel grow, the easiest way to help out is by smashing that subscribe button, tackling that bell to get notified when new videos come out. And while you're at it, leave a like and a comment. Let us know who you think will win this game and why. Ryan, the Rams looked extremely dominant over the
Oh yeah.
Minnesota Vikings here. Essentially, I think almost assuring that Vikings fans are going to be saying like, "Hey, we want JJ McCarthy." Actually, and it's unfair to Sam Darnold because I think one of the things the Rams did is they just dominated that offensive line. 9 sacks. Were some of those Sam Darnold sacks? Yes, but it just felt like from the get go, vast majority of those were the offensive line were not doing well, and they were blitzing like crazy.
Yeah.
Jared Verse had a crazy game, and just the entire team, the entire defensive team, were just absolutely getting after it. And so it's going to be a very fun matchup here, as looks like the Rams are playing as well as they've been all season, and they're going to go up against arguably the most well-rounded team I feel in the league. And even though I don't think they're the Super Bowl favorites, you just go look at if all the things could come together as well for this Eagles team with how well they've been running the ball, how great that offensive line has been. One of the best defensive lines in the league, led by Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis and Nolan Smith. And so then the secondary for the team as well, super young, which is even scary to think about, and have been one of the tops in the league as well. This is going to be
Mhm.
such a fun matchup. And there's just one key link in like on both sides of the ball for both teams that it's really going to be concerning for me, which is why I'm going to have my pick here. But I'll get to that here in a second. I want to throw it over to you. What are some of like kind of the key matchups, the key X factors that you're looking for both teams when it comes to this game?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for me is just can this Rams defense find a way to stifle this offense? Because this running game is one of the best in history. I feel like is rightfully so. Like they're one of 7 or 9 offenses to rush for 2,000 yard or have a single season 2,000 yard rusher. Jalen Hurts can also run the ball really well as well. But then on the outside too, they have AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Jahan Dotson caught a touchdown in the wild card matchup as well. Like Dallas Goddard is a really solid tight end. So that's can this Rams defense stifle this Philly offense? That's going to be a really tall task, and they're probably not going to be able to do it all the time. But if they can find ways to come in here and create some mismatches, force some turnovers, I think that's going to be really important for them. And then also, can this Rams offensive line keep Matt Stafford upright and in the pocket long enough with Nolan Smith, another Georgia defender next to Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter, like keep him upright long enough to have an impact and get the ball out to his receivers. Because if they have to go to that quick pass game, Philly's just going to start sitting on stuff, and then it's going to be a long day for that Rams offense. So it's going to be an interesting game. It's a rematch of a game that happened earlier in the season, and I'm looking forward to it. I think this is going to be a really good matchup. The wild card matchups were a little bit of a letdown, and so I'm ready for some better football here in the
Yeah.
divisional round.
Yeah. For all college fans too, as well. The first rounds don't always have to be just like absolute world beater games. Sometimes the more dominant teams just dominate. But yeah, in this matchup here, I agree with you. It's the Eagles team just as a whole is so complete. While on this Rams team, and they play great against this Minnesota Vikings team that had 14 wins on the season. And especially into what a weird week for them as well to play in Arizona with all the fires going on in Los Angeles, and we
Yeah.
hope that all the players are safe and everybody there, also to like their families that are also in there, but also all families, everybody in Los Angeles are safe as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how that kind of overall affects them as well. Like as they go back and practicing for the week, maybe they go to Philly. It's just going to be very unique on kind of what transpires over the next week for this team. But when it comes to this matchup here, though, as a whole, as kind of what you're talking about, is I feel like this defense can just like it's not even like this Rams offensive line had from week one to now has improved tremendously. It, I it, but it's it goes to show how good this defensive line is. Led by Jalen Carter,
Yeah.
he's such a force in the middle as well. Even too when they played in week 12 is what it looks like. I want to double check here. Yeah, week 12. Stafford gets sacked 5 times. They
Yeah.
held Kyron Williams in that running game to under 92 yards total as a team, and Matt Stafford even had 15 of those rushing yards. And so they were able to dominate. Saquon Barkley, he had 255 rushing yards against the Rams in this matchup here. He did have a 72 yard rushing touchdown as well. So like some of those numbers are a little inflated, but still, for to run for 200 to run over 200 yards in general is wild, but then to do 255,
Yeah.
and so that's obviously going to be very tough, and that's a very obvious weak link for me. I think one of the reasons why, like the weak link that I was mentioning earlier, though, is I do feel like this Rams secondary is vulnerable, and
Yeah.
that's why I think it's going to make it so tough because they have to somehow stop the run, which is going to have to put an extra guy in the box. And I think it's going to make this secondary just vulnerable. They did a good job, I guess, containing Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. But once again, though, too, I think they were let off the hook tonight, just because that defensive front and that front seven were playing so dominant. Like
Yeah.
they stacked Sam Darnold 9 times. And then they got to a point in the game where they're throwing the ball, so you could just pin the ears back. And Jared Verse and company, they were able to just dominate and get after Sam Darnold still, even when they were only going to be rushing 3 or 4 guys. And so they're not going to have that same luxury going up against Jordan Mailata, Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens, Mekhi Becton, Lane Johnson, uh, the best offensive line in the league, the way all these guys are playing. I mean, maybe Detroit, you could like maybe hold a candle up to, or like could compare to, but still, I feel like just through and through, like down the line, like Philadelphia, I think's one of the best. The one stat I saw in the wild card game, which is just wild, and if I misread it, let me know. But in my head, it's still wild, and I think this is it. But like Saquon Barkley, like the average like first point of contact is normally 2 yards downfield, like past the line of scrimmage, and like the league average is 1.1. Like that's
Yeah.
just wild to think about. It's like for how great of a year Saquon Barkley has been having,
Mhm.
would it even be close if it wasn't for how well this offensive line has been playing? And Los Angeles Rams, I think the weakness in their secondary, combined also too just with the overall dominance in the Philadelphia running game, is I think going to be the main detriment, for this team here. Is they're going to have to put an extra guy in the box, which is going to be leaving one less guy in this secondary, which is already not the best to say the least. To somehow then have to try and guard AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Jahan Dotson, who caught a touchdown as well, Dallas Goddard, who is just a stiff arming machine, and so it's just a mismatch nightmare. And on top of that, too, uh, like the Rams have a great offense, but I think the Eagles defense is going to be stepping up here. It is going to be interesting though. It's still a very young secondary, with Quinion Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, not to take anything away from them, but it does seem like Matt Stafford and company have like kind of found their stride, with Puka Nacua as well. They didn't really have to do too much tonight because they got the lead on pretty early and the defense took care of things. But if you go look at that last matchup, though, Puka Nacua had over 100 receiving yards against the Rams. Now, Rams got down early, so they were throwing the ball a bunch, like the exact scenario the Vikings were in tonight. So, but it's possible if Matt Stafford can play out of his mind and throw for 340 plus yards, Puka Nacua could have 100 plus receiving yards, same with Cooper Kupp as well. But it's going to be such a tough matchup. It's the Rams, to me, I think are going to have to play perfectly. And that's why, for me, I'm going to go with the Eagles because if I look at different avenues of success and routes of victories, I think Jalen Hurts could throw for 300 yards and beat you. I think Jalen Hurts, as we've seen multiple times this season, throw for less than 150 yards, less than 100 yards. He's thrown for less than 100 yards twice, and they've won the game. And in both those games, Saquon Barkley ran for, I think, over 200 yards.
Yeah.
So I think the Eagles can beat you in so many different ways. Now, that being said, though, I know like RG3, I saw on Twitter, he listed off something like they have a championship winning defense, defensive line, offensive line, secondary, Saquon Barkley, quarterback. Uh, but I do think they could win a Super Bowl with AJ Brown only having one catch and like for 10 yards, which is what he had against Green Bay. And I think part of that too is just because of how great
They
everything else is. Like
yeah.
their run first team. Is it great for AJ Brown? to go and have 100 plus receiving yards? Like, yes, absolutely. Everybody knows he can do that. And they also have Devontae Smith. He can do that as well. And I think that's the luxury of having the team that they have here is they don't have to rely on one of these stars. Maybe if somehow the Rams shut down Saquon Barkley, I fully trust Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, and company to throw for 300 plus yards against this Rams defense. So that's where I think the Eagles have so many different ways that they can win, and if they
Yeah.
win, and if the Lions beat the Commanders, this is going to be such an amazing NFC Championship game. I know I'm getting ahead of myself. I know Rams fans are like, Tyler, shut up. We still have to play the game. You never know. You're absolutely right. But to me, though, I just think there's so many ways this Eagles team can win against the Rams. While the Rams, I feel like they have to win in a shootout, and it's because Matt Stafford and company just absolutely just like throw all over Philly.
Yeah, and I don't see that happening. I'm going to go with Philadelphia as well. You mentioned it. It's just if somehow the Rams are able to actually like stop the run, Philadelphia can just go to their 2 all-pro receivers and just start throwing the football all over them. And
Yeah.
that's not really anything that they've had to do. This running game has been elite this season. And it's just it's not I worry about this matchup with Detroit, and Detroit has one of the best rushing defenses in the league. The Rams do not, and like the Rams have a good rushing defense. Don't get me wrong, but like Detroit, or Philadelphia is just too good right now, and they kind of got Jalen Hurts kind of got his sea legs back under him in that last matchup. Started making throws. These playmakers are just everywhere. They can beat you in so many ways, and I think Philly is they're very very good, and
Very.
I'm very curious to see how this game plays out. But I'm leaning Philadelphia pretty hard. So
Oh, yeah.
we're both taking the Eagles in this matchup. Let's go ahead. Let's wrap this one up here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. That is the best way to help out the channel. While you're down there, leave a comment on who you think is going to come out ahead. Will it be the the Los Angeles Rams who beat the Minnesota Vikings? Will it be the
won't
Los
be the
Angeles?
Vikings.
It will not be the Vikings. Yeah. I guarantee the Vikings will not win this game. Will it be the Los Angeles Rams? Will it be the Philadelphia Eagles? And other than that, we will see you guys next time.